In today's video, we're going to be looking at how to deploy Node.js applications to Heroku. Heroku is a pretty easy hosting provider where you can host your apps, Node.js apps, besides other types of apps. Yeah, as I said, it's pretty easy to use, just a couple of steps needed. And yeah, there is going to be there is a GitHub repository that you can check out for the full example, which you should be able to adapt to your project. Okay, well, let's jump right in and see how it works. I have a pretty standard, pretty bare bone Node.js server going on here. I built it using Express. You can use whatever you want, but yeah, so I have the server listening on localhost 3000 that just gives me hello world in return. And I started with yarn start, right? Okay, hopefully, probably your server or your app will look somewhat similarly, sorry. But yeah, this is how it works for me. I have no other dependency than Express. Maybe you have more here. So to get started, what we need is an account for Heroku and then this Node.js app. And then we can start configuring our app and then connect it to Heroku. So first thing, what we want to do is we want to define a node version in our package.json. So Heroku knows what kind of node version. There's different node versions, obviously, and so they know what node version to use to run your application. Otherwise, you might have problems that you're not expecting. If you don't know, the safest version is to just type node dash version, and you're gonna have your version from your local computer. And yeah, if you don't know which one to put, probably you want to just put this one. So how you define that is go to package.json and then type engines if you don't already have that there, and then node, and you can just take the first number 12.x. okay, well, for me it's 12.x. For you it might be 14 or 15 or maybe even 10 if you've been around for a little bit. Yeah, okay. Once you have that, then we need to define a proc file. The proc file is going to be used by Heroku, and VS Code actually already has the logo of Heroku associated with that. And we just need one thing in there, which is a web process. I think you can name that however you want, but yeah, they recommend you to name it web, and then you give it the command that you start the server with. So in my case, it's yarn start. For you, it might be different, but yeah, that's the proc file. Then next up, there's just one thing that we have to make sure, which is actually in your code base. So if you have an index.js or app.js or server.js, whatever it is, your entry point to your app, you probably have defined a port here, right? So for me, if I go yarn start, my server is listening on localhost 3000. And then we have to make sure that we're passing the environment variable port, or as a fallback, your number that you specified there, right? Because why is that? Because Heroku will pass a port. They're not always running it on the same port, so we have to make sure that our node server is actually taking in that port and then using that to listen on requests. Okay, well, if you're using I think Express Generator, whatever it's called, I think they do it for you, but just maybe double check to see that you have the correct port forward, meaning you take in the process the environment variable or a fallback value. Okay, very good. Then Next up, yeah, I think we can just go ahead, go to Heroku and then create a new app and connect our Node.js server. All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and create a new app. Node.js sample deployment. Just gonna call it that. We'll see if that's available. Seems like it is available. Okay, gonna create a new app. And there we go. We do have that app here. Well, that deployment. So there's different ways of deploying, of bringing our code that we have here on the local machine to Heroku. My favorite way of doing that is to connect GitHub. Hopefully you have GitHub, a GitHub account, and you're hosting you have your code uploaded to GitHub. And if you're in a team, that's a very good idea. But even if you're just by yourself, I would advise you to do that. So it's safe in the cloud, let's say, right? So I'm gonna connect a repository. Well, first I need to give access to this organization. Yeah, very good. Okay, so in case you have an organization, make sure to give access to that. There's a link just down below. I'm just gonna reload real quick. Okay, now I can select the correct organization. Maybe it's also just your personal account. If there's nothing there, probably you have to connect that as well. And then I call that Node.js Heroku deployment. So I'm gonna look for that, Node.js Heroku, and then just search, and probably it's gonna find it. Okay, yeah, we do have it here. I'm gonna connect that. There we go. Choose a branch to deploy. Well, I only have one branch. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a production branch, right? Why do you want that? Because sometimes you're just doing some stuff, some debug stuff on your main branch, whatever that is called, right? So you might be just pushing some stuff so your team member can access that, and you don't actually want to deploy that. So it's always a good idea to branch off of the main branch and actually make a production branch. And that way you can also have multiple stages. So one common way to do it would be to have one development server, one staging server, and one production server. So development, you just push there, and then maybe the QA team can have a look at the development server. Once that is stabilized, you would push to the staging environment, maybe for the client to see it or something like that. And then finally, if you're really sure that everything is okay, you could deploy and push to the production branch, and therefore deploy to the production environment. Okay, right now I'm just gonna have two branches. One is the main branch, and the other one is the production branch. I'm just gonna quickly commit and push to the main branch, and after that I'm gonna check out to a new branch, production, and push there as well. So I can select that in Heroku, because yeah, remember, so far I only had that main branch. If I now reload the page, I do have main and production, so I can go back to Heroku, probably reload that as well, and then I can go to select the production branch and enable automatic deploys. Perfect. Automatic deploys are enabled for branch production, and that means whenever I push to that branch, I get a build, right? I can also deploy the branch manually, right? If I want to, for whatever reason, right? If I want to redeploy, if I want to make sure that I have a clean sheet, then I can just hit that button here. Note that this is under the deploy tab in Heroku. So I can just deploy the branch, and then Heroku will start a build for me. So we're gonna see how that looks. Okay, we do have that build log here. We can also expand that a little bit and see. Okay, well, that was pretty quick. Does make sense because I don't have much here. I just have Express installed. So I build all that. They actually build all that stuff and then upload it. It already says released. Okay, and then I do get a URL for to access that. I'm just gonna go ahead and do that, and perfect. We can see that the app is live. So I get that hello world just like I would on my local machine, but now the difference is it's accessible on the interweb. So you can share this URL, pass it to whoever you think would enjoy it, and then they can access your server. There's a couple of steps that I would like to add just to improve it a little bit. So in case, well, Heroku gives you this app, this URL for the app, for the server, which is fine, but most likely if you're in a production environment, you don't want that URL, right? You want your own URL, which can be changed in the settings, I think. Yeah, so you can add a custom domain. So let me maybe say Node.js. Well, no, actually, I'm gonna save that for a later video. Yeah, so, but you can add a domain here. Let's say you reserve the domain. Node.js.dba.io, and then you add that, and they're gonna give you the instructions. But I think in a future video, I might be walking through that, but yeah, not in this one. The next thing is configuration variables. Well, these are the environment variables, right? So I don't have any there at the moment, but I'm just gonna have my super secret key, right? Just gonna add that, and then yeah, I don't know what you have in your app or in your server. You might have something like a database URL. You don't want to hard code that into your code. You actually want to put that as an environment variable, and then the server can safely access that without you leaking that, well, without you putting it online and on GitHub or wherever you have the version control. Hopefully GitHub here, otherwise that won't work. Okay. Another thing, let's see. Okay, resources. That's a good thing. Heroku has quite a bunch of add-ons, so you can browse through them and then add an add-on. What I like to do is add paper trail always, because that gives you yeah, a nice way of saving the logs. So you can just go with the free option if you want. You can pay for it, but free option is just fine for the beginning. And then provision that, and on Papertrail you can they're saving the logs, so you can just yeah, go through the history of what the server did. Right, there is the logs here. If you go to more and then view logs, and then you see the logs, but it's not exactly a lot. I'm not sure when that resets, but yeah. Okay, well, next up, there is one step that you might need to do, which is building something, right? So you might have a server, a web server, and then you might have a React app, let's say, right? And the React app needs to be bundled, and then you can do that and push that to GitHub, but probably you don't want to do that. Probably what you want to do is you just want to have your source files in, let's say, website folder, right? And you have an HTML and all the other stuff there, and then you also have a build folder, So yeah. And then what you want to do is compile all this stuff into the build folder. So how we do that is we can, usually you just have a build command. So build would be, I'm just going to log something. Building, not actually doing something, but usually I would, right? Depends on what your use case is. But here, yeah, you can put whatever you want. You can then start that with yarn build. Now, perfect, that's logging. Now, Heroku is not going to do that automatically for you. So what you need to do is go Heroku post build and then yarn build. So you're actually just running yarn build in the Heroku post build command. There's a couple of these hooks, let's say, that Heroku gives you, where you can put different commands. And one of them is post build, and for them post build means after installing all the dependencies. So that they do automatically after cloning your repository, and then once that is done, the Heroku post build. There's also pre-build and probably others. You can check the documentation for that. But yeah, probably this one is the most important one. So with that, I think I'm just gonna commit and push so that the automatic deployment will be triggered, and then we can see if we get that log in Heroku. So Heroku build command. Okay, there we go. All right. Now let's go to the activity tab, and there we go. There's a new build. So the integration with GitHub works fine, which is perfect. I'm gonna view the build log. Okay, build successful. Let me see. It's probably already done. Okay, well, build, very good. Very good. Maybe it detected the build thing, but skipping it because I have the Heroku post build. Seems like you can probably try around, but the safe option is to go with Heroku post build. Yeah. So you can see that it's running Heroku post build, which then gives me this here. Build succeeded, perfect, it's deployed. So yeah, I think that is it. Our server is still running, and then they handle a bunch of things for you, restarting the server and all that. If it's erroring out, you can see a little bit. Okay, well, you can change the Dyno type. Maybe that's one thing that might be interesting. So there is different Dyno types. The free one, that's what I have right now. I don't want to pay for that, right? You can change to hobby or standard depending on your needs. And then, yeah, there's also more things like background workers, cron jobs, and all that. But I think for now, this is good. Hopefully this helped you to host your app on Heroku. I think this is a pretty nice setup, especially if you're starting out. That's yeah, it's really easy. Okay, let me know if that helped you. Let me know if you have any questions, and otherwise we're gonna see each other in the next video.